Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation chapter 18.
Hi friends, today's video is about the role of the Jews in Mystery Babylon. It's been overlooked by many of today's watchmen what her role is, in that they will only identify the Roman Catholic Church, or Rome, as being Mystery Babylon. They're guilty of tunnel vision, refusing to look at the role of the Jews. It says, "In her was found the blood of the prophets, and of the saints, and of all who were slain upon the earth," in Revelation 18:24. This verse says the prophets of old, and we all know that the Catholic Church did not exist back then. But the Babylonian religion did, which the Catholic Church is patterned after. Modern-day Judaism also is patterned after the Babylonian religion. They don't rely on the Torah like you've been led to believe. They rely on the Talmud and the Kabbalah, and included in that is the Zohar. Now you may have noticed these creepy-looking sepia-tone pictures. They were done by a Jewish immigrant in the 19th century. And strangely, they're predictive, just as the title of his book says. The Jews got in trouble when, just like this little girl, they took the hand of a monster. The Jews had adopted Babylonian concepts and incorporated them into their beliefs by putting them into their oral traditions, contradicting the Torah.
The long and winding road that leads to yonder.
Then the journey began, where they bring the Whore of Babylon and incorporated her into their religion. It was a complete shock to me to find out that the Kabbalah teaches polytheism through the so-called Tree of Life. And they also teach what's called sex magic. But let's start at the beginning. I found a really good clip by Bride Ministries.
MyJewishLearning.com. Who wrote the Zohar? According to traditional Jewish belief, the Zohar was revealed by God to Moses on Sinai, passed down orally until it was written down in the 2nd century by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, known as the Rashbi, also sometimes referred to as Simeon ben Yochai. From a historical critical perspective, the authorship of the Zohar has been a matter of debate for centuries. Scholars now agree it was written in 13th century Spain, likely by the Castilian Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe de Leon and multiple other authors. The text was apparently written in Aramaic, not a widely used language at the time, in order to create the appearance of having been authored centuries earlier. Now, with all the historical critical evidence that confirms the Christian Bible, you have a body of text that, by all accounts and dating and what's available, doesn't even go back before the 13th century, which is the basis of all of this occult stuff, becoming now the center of Judaism, as they call it, the heart of Judaism.
He's absolutely right. Look at this Chabad.org website. It says the Kabbalah is the soul of Judaism. Now let's look at some of the famous people in history that really got into Kabbalah and taught it.
So I'm going to introduce you to some of the most astute students of Kabbalah. Are you ready for this? Who wants to know an astute student of Kabbalah? All right. We're going to talk about it. The first one I will introduce you to is named Eliphas Levi. Eliphas Levi, for those of you that do not know, led the occult revival of the 1800s that revived Satanism and Luciferianism. He wrote many books about ritual magic and how to have contact with demonic spirits. Who wants to take notes from this guy, right? So here he is, Eliphas Levi. He was a French occult author and ceremonial magician. He has attempted to translate or transliterate his given name into the Hebrew language. Now, why would he care about translating into the Hebrew language? Probably from his studies of Kabbalah, right? So here's some of his stuff, life work. Oh, look at that guy, Baphomet, huh? Yep. You could read all about this guy. He wrote all these highly, highly occult books. The Science of Spirits, the Key to the Great Mysteries. I mean, this guy is really, really dark. And he was totally involved in study of Kabbalah. So I will leave you to do your own research, okay? Number 2, who else is on our list of highly influential folks in the area of Kabbalah? MacGregor Mathers. Now, MacGregor Mathers was one of the 3 founders of the Order of the Golden Dawn. And he was also a mentor of one of my least favorite people, Aleister Crowley. Now, what kind of a student of occult arts does it take to mentor Aleister Crowley, one of the greatest occultists, so-called, of the last century, right? So here he is. Another student of Kabbalah, very famous, Helena P. Blavatsky. Now, for those of you that do not know who she is, Blavatsky's writings garnered the materials of Neoplatonism, Renaissance magic, Kabbalah, and Freemasonry, together with Egyptian and Greco-Roman mythology and religion, joined by Eastern doctrines taken from Buddhism and Advaita I don't even know how to pronounce it, Vedanta, to present the idea of an ancient wisdom handed down from prehistoric times. That's according to historian Nicholas Goodrick Clark. She believed that the Jews, through books like the collection of Kabbalah, had stolen books of black magic that had previously come from the Chaldeans. She is the one who formed the Theosophical Society with another gentleman, which Alice Bailey was aligned with. And for those of you that don't know about Alice Bailey, she was the one who channeled Dwal Kul, an ascended master, established the Lucifer Trust, now known as Lucius Trust, and was the force to deploy the term New Age, and also spoke about the coming of the Age of Aquarius. Home run hitters, right? So we can take a quick look at her. I want you to take a quick look at this when we talk about the logo for the Theosophical Society. What do you see in this logo of the Theosophical Society? Answer: the same star you see on the flag of the nation state of Israel, with an ankh on the inside of it, a swastika at the top, which is an egg, which the eternal serpent wraps himself around, consuming his own tail, which is also a connection to the Ouroboros, which then makes a connection to Orion. All right. What is she trying to tell you? So I will leave you all to do your own research. Now, I'm going to talk about a few other heavy hitters. A.E. White. A.E. White wrote occult texts on subjects including divination, esotericism, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, and ceremonial magic, Kabbalism, and alchemy. I want you to think about that. Why would you be writing about Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, and Kabbalah? Answer: because Kabbalah is actually central to all of those occult arts. Here's a picture of this guy, A.E. Waite. American British poet, scholarly mystic. He is the co-creator of the Rider Waite Tarot deck. Interesting, he actually was in an ongoing feud with Aleister Crowley. He also was co-founder of the Order of the Golden Dawn, or a joiner of the Order of the Golden Dawn, excuse me. And so I would highly recommend that you do your own research. This guy wrote the book, The Holy Kabbalah, in 1929, 8 years after writing his book on ceremonial magic, or 18 years, and 7 years or 8 years after writing his book, A New Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. So he was building up. All right, next on the list, Manly P. Hall. Now, how many people may have heard of that name before in your study of Freemasonry, right? Because Manly P. Hall was a very high-ranking Freemason. What is Manly Hall P writing about? Kabbalah. Kabbalah, Kabbalah, Kabbalah. Here's Manly P. Hall. He is best known for his book, The Secret Teaching of All Ages. He wrote The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. Of course, he was a member of the Rosicrucian Fellowship as well. Bad news. The Secret Teaching of All Ages, an encyclopedic outline of Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian symbolic philosophy. What's the thread running through all of it? Kabbalah. Kabbalah. So even before I get much deeper into this, I'm sure that many of you would be able to understand my absolute, overwhelmingly negative response when I saw some people holding a Christian conference called Zohar Illuminated. I'm not going to go into that, but you know, I'm just saying, whoa, what's happening here? Here's another one, Albert Pike, author of the book Morals and Dogma. Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike is an American author, poet, orator, jurist, prominent Freemason. In his celebrated and controversial guide, this comes from masoncode.com, to the degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, Albert Pike devotes a considerable amount of space to Kabbalah, calling it, among other things, the key of the occult sciences. Reading his account of Kabbalah in the compendious chapter devoted to the esoteric 28th degree, Night of the Sun, there can be no doubt that he was an ardent devotee of sacred geometry, numerology, and gematria. Right now, we're just in fact land. I'm not teaching anything. I'm just reading you stuff. I'm trying to give you some keys. Do your own research. This is the one thing about Kabbalah. It is impossible to research Kabbalah and come to the conclusion that Judaism is a healthy religion.
Now let's talk about the so-called Tree of Life. They say that the 10 dots on the tree represent an aspect of God. And they also divide God up into being part male and part female, an androgynous God. Then they add other gods into this tree that represent his son and daughter. Now, just so you don't think I'm misrepresenting Kabbalah, I want you to hear from a Cornell professor who's teaching about Kabbalah sex magic.
Beginning my research, I encountered this passage from the Shir Koma, which is it's like the measurement of the body, the divine body. And it's a 5th to 7th century text that literally provides the names and the measurements of the divine body, head to toe, or rather loins to toe and loins to head. Even more, it links this knowledge to power. So I thought it was a good place to start thinking about God's body. So now I'm going to give you a little sample from that, right? So again, it describes the divine body part by part and names every part and measures it. So the name of his right knee is Setamnagats, and the name of his left knee is Pedangas. The name of the right thigh is Vichmai, and the name of the left thigh is Partmai. From his thighs until his neck is 240 million parasangs, and the name of the innermost part of his loins is Asasnigi Yahu. Even more, the recitation of this liturgy transforms the operator, for the text makes some very big promises to those who recite it daily. And now we come to our Global Gender and Sexuality Studies rainbow. Sections, so the middle part of this text, it says, his body resembles a bow, and the bow is something like the semblance of fire forming a house around it, okay? And then later in the text, it says, between one lightning bolt and another is the gateway of Chashmal, power, and above our spirits and thunderbolts and thunderclaps and lightning bolts and the folds of the rainbow and ropes of the divine seal ascending and descending in it. I thought, great, this is a text about God's body. And then I thought, why is there a rainbow forming a house around it? And then I realized that the word for body here is often a euphemism for penis. And that house functioned the same way for wife and vagina. And so then when I saw that the rainbow had folds and that it was sitting over the body, something definitely began to click. Namely, there's a tradition of not only divine embodiment, but since this one clearly has genitals, also divine gendering and bigendering to boot. Even more, that there's a tradition of intradivine sexuality. And as the text tells us later, humans and angels watch. So, and even more still, those who know this and recite the text daily get special powers. And we'll examine a section that demonstrates the power of human observation of divine coitus. And so this is what happens in this text. The text describes how the operator has studied, memorized, prayed, recited a litany of divine names, and a series of astronomically large measurements of the divine body, all memorized. He arrives at the highest heaven finally to witness, with overwhelming emotions of awe and wonder, a celestial prayer service that ends in intra-divine coitus. And it's marked with a declaration, the throne of glory is glistening. So it's quite an image. Like, could it be that this happens every time that anybody says their prayers, since they're almost exactly the same above as below? And what if it does? What if every time you say your prayers, God has sex with God's self, right? Next example. And I'll put you in the shoes of the operator. Imagine this. You are a 10th century mystic, asked to smash your consciousness to smithereens through imagining and thereby participating in an incestuous relationship between God, his daughter Wisdom, his son Solomon, and thou. Not only that, this incestuous relationship is key to wisdom and to connection with the divine. And I'll read you something from the text. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Bereshit is Beit Reshit. The word Reshit is nothing other than wisdom. It is thus written.
This is absolutely repulsive. And to think, this is taught at a college campus, Cornell.
This resembles a king who marries his daughter to his son. He gives her to him at the wedding and says, "Do with her as you desire." So this human divine incest narrative is meant to blur the boundaries of social and cosmological categories. And when this happens between human and divine, so that at least imaginatively, human beings interact sexually with the divine. This is the first example that includes non-divine participants in the act. So are we meant to try this at home? Maybe. Okay. Next example comes from the 13th century Zohar. That's Zohar 3:37b. Now, picture this. There is a Kabbalist at midnight, imagining the sexual reunion of two painfully separated sphirot, or aspects of the divine, Tiferet and Shekhinah, a married couple that represent the masculine and feminine aspects of God.
This is not the God of the Bible, folks. This sounds more like Baphomet, who's half female and half male, or incubus and succubus, or both. And I can understand why Aleister Crowley was attracted to this. Now you know why the Bible calls it the synagogue of Satan. It's technically accurate. It's the basis of all witchcraft and Satanism. And the Bible calls her a whore. Now you know why. Can you imagine the level of blasphemy? Now, my friends that insist that the Whore of Babylon is just the Roman Catholic Church or just Rome, can you see now why you need to see the whole picture? If you want further evidence, this Shekinah, which they're saying is the female aspect of God, which has sex with the male aspect of God, so I guess he's having sex with himself, unless they're two gods, but who knows. Anyways, the Christians have stupidly adopted the term Shekinah, thinking it's a biblical term, when it's not even in the Bible. It was never in the Bible. So just go to the Jewish Virtual Library, and you'll see the 10 Sephirot right there. And you're going to see Shekinah right at the bottom. Then scroll down to the bottom of the page and click on Shekinah, where it says God's presence in the world. And near the bottom of this page, it's going to say Queen, Bride, Daughter, Princess. So there you have it. She's the queen. And surprisingly, it also says it's the land of Israel. Now we know that it's the counterfeit Israel.